Greetings, ladies and sturms. Oh, it's my birthday, I think. Is it that today? October the 25th. Anyway, I am going to, is the best way to utilize any birthday, especially over the age of 50, which for me is 54, was basically manufacturing a miniature portable vocal isolation booth, so that you can record basically voiceover work, or you can sing, you can do vocals in your home studio with better quality than having to go to a recording studio where they have acoustic treatments all over the walls to get rid of nasty reflections and keep out unwanted ambient noise, which we have a plethora of here in Vietnam. And as you can imagine, of course I'm in a garage, and nothing wrong with the garage, right? You can see my 3 babies over there. Anyway, I don't have my musical equipment set up in the garage anymore. I've moved it all upstairs into temperature-controlled bedroom with a hardwood floor, and the acoustics are okay in there, but I've been doing some reading on the internet about voiceover work and recording vocals, and the key is that you want to isolate your vocal from the ambient reflections in your room. You don't really want your room or your environmental acoustics to affect your vocal. If you have a quality vocal, or you're striving to get a quality vocal, it takes a bit of acoustical treatment. And so I read up on the internet about ways to do this. And generally speaking, I'm going to sit down. Thank you. Since I don't have a selfie stick, I'll bore you with having to hold the camera. But anyway, most guys are making panels with Owen Corning yellow rigid material that's either in 1-inch or 2-inch thicknesses, that they mount in a wooden frame and cover with like burlap or something and hang it on the walls. And I don't do a lot of live recording, and I have a MIDI studio, so I have MIDI instruments, right? And I play electric bass, and I have a Rhodes piano, and I have several digital pianos. So the only concern would be recording vocals. And I'm privy to own a Shure SM98A miniature condenser microphone. And amazingly enough, this is all that it is. I'm going to unscrew the filter, basically, which is a piece of white foam that you can see, right, with serrations on the plastic so that the air can get through. It's threaded. And here is all the SM98A element is. It's a miniature condenser mic. So that's all that the element is. You got your 3-prong plug on the back and your element in the front. It has a little sleeve that it'll go into so that you can screw on the pop filter. But I found in experimenting with this, and I've used this many times, the acquisition of this SM98A Shure miniature condenser mic, it's about $200. You got to phantom power it with 48 volts of phantom power. I have a clip. I have a little gooseneck, a little short one that clips onto the bell of the trumpet, and really is what I found to be the best mic for recording live trumpet. I tried AKG 414s. I tried Sennheiser MD 421 Dynamics, large diaphragm mics in stereo, put them back on the stand. Not a good sound for me. Anyway, so this SM98A is meant for high pressure levels, drums, and it's perfect for the trumpet. So I've used it all these years to do that with I have a little gooseneck, a clip that this will fit in, and it clips right on your trumpet bell. Well, tonight on my birthday of 54 years young, I decided that I'm going to make me a little isolation vocal booth to be able to use this mic more efficiently and accurately while doing vocals. And from what I learned on the internet, the whole key is you can make a little isolation booth. And the one fellow went out and bought him basically a plastic storage container that may have been 2 feet by 3 feet, which is a little bit big, or maybe 2 feet by 2 feet and about a foot deep or something, a container that he lined with foam and just basically set his large condenser mic on a desk stand inside the unit, and then you stick your head in, and that cuts out the reflections from the back and from the sides. And I went, well, that seems like a good idea. How can I do that on a more portable level? And utilizing my miniature mic, which is, it has a clip, so I have a clip with a gooseneck. But I said, well, if there was a way that I could mount this little this element, which is so small, and have some type of enclosure around that's portable that would fit on your mic stand. So that was my concept. And today I was able to create that. So I would like to give you a little rundown of how that emerged. Basically, what you see here is a woven basket. A tisket or tasket, as Ella Fitzgerald would sing. And it's because, Longaberger Basket Company is in the basket business. But anyway, it just so happens because my mom is a home ec teacher and my grandmother was a homemaker and lived on a dairy farm. Whenever she died, we went to her house for an auction, and all of these baskets were in her basement. And I just felt like it would be a crime to let those just disappear. So I pretty much grabbed all the baskets out of my grandmother's basement, and my mom had baskets, so here are the baskets. And this basket in particular, which had an insert in it, here's the insert basically, which was plastic, probably was meant to hold a house plant, for beauty purposes. And that's cool. But the interesting thing is that I was able to utilize the shell of this basket, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show you basically, I got some light happening, the microphone mount and filter combination that I manufactured this evening. So here it is. Now, my eyes are a little bit blurry. I wear contact lenses. That is quite an interesting concoction, isn't it? And I will do my best. I'm gonna tilt this up. I'm gonna set the camera down for just a second so that I can prop this up so I don't have to hold it, so I can explain. Okay, so here. So now I'm gonna turn the light on. So here we go. So in essence, what this ended up being was 2 metal frames that are circular that fit inside this basket. And the basket is acting as a megaphone, a frame for a megaphone. And at the bottom of the basket, at the very bottom, the outer frame here, which is the outer one which is on the back side, there's a bit of duct tape here and a bit of duct tape here and a bit of duct tape here, where I had to cut. This was actually a lampshade, so it was a circular lampshade. It was too big, so I had to snip it in 3 places and then bend it to make it more this size diameter. And on the back side, where you can kind of see, is the strut. Here is one strut, and here is one strut. Oops. And the bottom strut is here, and they go down. Now I'm going to pull the filter out, one of these pieces of foam, and at the bottom you can see, oh indeed, that this used to be a lampshade, because this circle here, although the one that's in the back with the duct tape, would hold the top of a lampshade, which was a similar diameter, and then the 3 struts, and then your screw would go through that hole, and you would screw something on to hold the lampshade on. Well, we had, just by chance, my video skills are a little rusty, so I'm sorry I'm not being very production conscious. Anyway, that lampshade came off of this old man lamp that's been in our family for a really long time. And there's the lamp, and you can see up here, okay, there's the screw, and that frame would sit down, and you would put a screw on the top of it, and then the lampshade would fit over the top of that circular frame. That it just turns out I took that off, and the shade was so rotted that it just fell apart. But I kept that frame because of that shape, that conical with that little threaded piece, and then 3 struts, and then a frame, knowing some way that I might be able to use it with this, and also knowing that this Shure SM98A just kind of basically, you see, it just fits right in that structure. So down here at the bottom, right, it looks like a parabolic reflector microphone. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to use that. And the diameter of this fits through that hole perfectly. So I'm like, I have to use this to make my microphone isolation booth. Okay. So, 17 minutes in, I had to use 2 structures, right? I used that, I had to modify it, I clipped it and made the diameter smaller. And then the outer ring that you see here also was a similar thing, right? Consists of an inner ring and an outer ring with 2 struts here. It was some kind of a cooling rack or something. And that cooling rack here was a measuring cup, you know, which is, I think, that is certainly not 3, or maybe that is 3/4 of a cup. Doesn't look like it to me. And it would sit down in there, so maybe it was a rack, steamer rack that would go in, I don't know, a pressure cooker or something. But anyway, I had that. And I needed to use that basically so the whole thing would mount to the megaphone, the straw, and hold it in place inside the wicker. Because the wicker later would be, I mean, you can look at that and you go, okay, well, there's the mic element pointing at you. And I will explain now that there is acoustical treating on the inside. So that was the thing. There is a plastic container, right, that I cut off and mounted these metal units in, so that as the mic sticks through, you know, like a shotgun mic, on the bottom of this cylinder and on the sides here, this is a plastic cylinder that's been coated with foam. So that mic, as it sticks through, as it sticks out like this, is surrounded by foam on 3 different sides. So on the back side back there, and on as far as the mic sticks out, there is foam insulation, right? And it comes all the way up. So here's the gray foam. So I've got that mic insulated in back inside here. So there are no reflections coming from the back or from the sides. And that's what I wanted. That was the whole point, right? And there's a plastic container that's mounted, and then the metal frames are mounted to the plastic, and then the foam is glued inside the plastic with contact cement, and that they're held together with wire ties. So everything is just kind of held together, but that's very sturdy. And then the metal unit fits inside the wicker. You go, well, why do you really need that wicker structure if you've got plastic there, which is insulating sound from coming in? Well, I'm going to show you. It's like the element of the mic sticks out about maybe an inch above the hole, right? So your element is way down in there. The point of acoustic treatment is to isolate from your room, right? So I'm isolating the mic from reflection, so that's really good. But as you sing into the mic, you also need to isolate the ambient frequencies that are surrounding you. So the way that you do that is I have this wicker frame, which is going to be my insulation, and I created my own custom foam insert, which is here. Okay, and at the bottom of the insert, amazingly, is your pop filter. So instead of having a separate Gobstopper, I had some of this acoustic material that I used on I cut holes in my acoustic piano and put this cloth on. I had some of that, and so I was able to make this filter with a different plastic device. It was, I think it was, if you hang on a second, it was part of this plastic container that I cut down, right, to fit. It's going to fit inside this wicker. And when I mounted the foam to the outside of it to resist your ambient reflections of the room, I added the GOP filter on there so that if you watch this, here's my amazing invention, right? This filter will slide right down. And I'm going to have to reach forward here while I'm holding the camera. Sorry about that. And my filter fits perfectly in the wicker frame. And my Gobstopper goes right up against the mic element where you want it to stop your pee-pops. So my Gobstopper is in effect. My microphone is being isolated from the back and all around it with a plastic container that's lined with foam. I have a new foam filter, a separate piece that's also, now this was the question. I'm like, okay, when you're singing, if I had not included this plastic insert as you sang into this unit, this megaphone, you would be singing right into foam, right? Which, in my idea, is going to dampen your voice and maybe unnaturally, right? Because we don't sing in a foam isolation booth, we sing out. And if you look at any studios, you pretty much always see, you know, a big capsule condenser mic hanging from a boom stand, right, that's very acoustically isolated, that's deadened, and there's a Gobstopper in front of it, right? So you sing into the Gobstopper, but then you're picking up all that room reflection. So I'm like, well, so you don't really want to deaden every single bit of your voice. And so in designing this, I said, well, normally, I think to begin with, I probably was going to put the foam on the inside of the plastic so that it would shape it appropriately. And then I thought, well, no, I could just leave the plastic insert out and the foam would just kind of line my wicker basket here, and that would probably work okay. And then I got to thinking about it, and I said, you know, a plastic insert here acts like a horn that is going to channel your voice down into the mic, while also at the same time cutting out all of your extraneous room reflections that you don't want. So it was a bit of an experiment. I said, well, I'm basically creating a horn that I'm going to sing into to get to the mic. Well, this is kind of a novel idea that I don't think we see very often in the movies or in acoustics, right? We see you singing into a horn and the sound goes out, but I said, well, obviously a horn to collect sound is common, say, in the hearing industry, where if you need to hear, they concentrate. Anyway, this is what I decided upon. And it turns out that it seems to work really well. So I did tests of singing into the mic. With no foam insert, which is going to be no dampening. The microphone is being shielded, right? The element sits down in there. So it's getting a pretty good shield, the microphone itself, from ambient reflections. But you're not going to be singing down there. You're going to be singing somewhere out here, and you're still going to get the room. So I made the filter, right? So that's, and it turns out that it seems to work pretty well. And what I'm going to do tomorrow, actually, to fine-tune this, is I'm actually going to take this filter and I'm going to cut it into sections. the first section here, right, I needed that plastic frame to hold my Gobstopper. This is just a piece of plastic, right? You can see here it's part of a container, but I can cut this into sections. I'll cut a section here so that if you want just the Gobstopper with very little isolation from the foam, you could take that and you could stick the Gobstopper in all the way up against the mic element and get rid of your P-pops, but still have ambient sound coming in the wicker, right? If you want room sound. And then I will cut another section so that you could put the Gobstopper and then add one section of foam to get a little bit of acoustic treatment. And then my last section, my third section here, would be if you want the full Monty, right? If you want all of that isolation, then you'll put all three of those sections in. And then you experiment by where you place where you basically place your mouth. When I went upstairs and did the tests on Digital Performer, I sang with my lips here, and then I sang with my lips slightly inside the filter, and then I sang all the way with my mouth inside, which of course sounded tubey the way that it would, but I think that this thing here basically ends up being a very, very effective vocal isolation unit slash horn sound collector, and I'm really proud of it. And the cool thing is, on top of that, that I was able to, all that stuff is mounted in this basket, right, with these brackets. I use wire ties. The really cool thing is that I was able to fashion a mount here, right? So basically on that cooling rack, it had 3 legs, and they were closed on the end, right? So 2 of those I used to mount the cooling rack and the other metal unit inside the basket. Well, the third one, amazingly enough, I snipped the end off, and that becomes your microphone mount. So when you have the 2 washers, which I moved upstairs, this unit will sit right on top of your mic stand the way that you need it, so that you just walk right up and you sing into the man's can. Singing into the man's can, this is Pappy O'Donnell coming to you from Texarkana, Alabama, with the Soggy Bottom Boys learning treatise how to sing into the man's can. Anyway, on a humorous note, this is Reichle here on his birthday of 54 years, putting the day to use, making a combination vocal isolation booth and portable sound isolation booth for vocals and voiceover work in your home studio. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope that acute pancreatitis or diverticulitis does not beset me again, because it's not fun. Peace out.